A very special Penn Jillette show. We're going to be talking to amazing Randi, James Randi of the James Randi Educational Foundation. Probably outside of my family, the most important person in the world to me. Person that changed my life the most. Sitting also here with Michael Goudot, and we have Randi here, who is now. You don't like the term debunker.
No.
So I call you the old debunker, but that's just to annoy you.
Yeah, I understand.
But since you're the guest of the show,
you're so good at that.
How would you like to have yourself described?
Well, I dropped amazing some time ago after I left the formal stage and the footlights. So I'm just James Randi, president of the James Randi Educational Foundation at Fort Lauderdale, Florida. If you can handle that.
And it's Randi, RANDI.org. Is that right?
That's true.
Randi.org to find out all about this. And how did you end up as the guru of the skeptic movement?
I don't know. I just sort of slid into it. It needed to be done. The Sylvia Browns and the Uri Gellers and the John Edwards and whatnot that were currently plaguing the market needed to be taken down a peg. Actually, Penn, I started when I was like 14 years of age as a kid. Maybe I add that up in Canada, in Toronto, Canada. I got interested in magic, and I saw right away that the phonies out there, the spiritualists and the people who are reading fortunes and predicting the future, etc., they were using the same gimmicks that the magicians were.
And making more money.
and making a lot more money, yes, that's true. And certainly more than I was at the time. I was working bars and various places of ne'er-do-well. And just barely getting along, but at the same time I had the certain amount of compassion in me for the people who were being victimized by these folks, and I thought to myself, I said, one of these days you'll be equipped, you'll be in a position where you can come out against this flummery and do something about it. And that time arrived quite some years ago, and I've been doing it ever since. I think I often say it's like the average person, certainly everyone at this table, and I hope most of those listening, if you were to see a fellow struck down by a car and the car sped off, what you would do, if you have any humanity in you at all, would be to try to make that person comfortable and safe, remove that person from further danger, and immediately get some help on its way. That's what I'm doing. I'm yelling for help. I'm alerting people to the fact they've been swindled and they need some help. Now, mind you, if the guy wants to crawl back into the traffic again, out into the speeding lane, and everything, that's his own business. I may drag him back the second time, but not the third time.
That's where the line is drawn. When we pitched Bull's hit to Showtime to do a show that was skeptical, we met a great deal of resistance. It's pretty interesting to me that if you want to go on television and say nonsense, it's an easier pitch than if you have stuff you want to say that you can back up. And I know you've banged your head against that an awful lot. Yeah. Do you find there's any sort of change that people are more open to skepticism now?
Not much. Now, Goudot said it just a moment ago. It's the money. You chase the money. Look at where the money's going and where it's coming from, and you'll find out what's happening. Look at Montel Williams. Now, here's a well-educated man, obviously not a dummy of any kind. Mm-hmm. He's very intelligent, well-informed and such, but he has Sylvia Brown on constantly because she's a cash cow for him. The sponsors love it. They don't care whether she's genuine or whether she's hurting people. She's box office. That gets people tuned into the program. Bottom line, they like it. The sponsors like it, so I like it.
Now, this stuff is all I've been talking to you about this for, I guess, 30 years, a little longer.
Easily. I've
been talking about this, so it's. I've gone through all these arguments myself, but I think you should talk about, pick either Sylvia Brown specifically or Uri Geller specifically, or in general. A lot of people use the argument, and I know the answers to this, but I always love to hear you say it. What damage are they doing? What's the real damage?
Well, I always say that it's the thin edge of a wedge. If you start to believe that maybe the horoscope in the local newspaper has some value and you should read it every day, even if you only read it for fun, something coincides along the way, and you say, wait a minute, maybe I should take this seriously, not realizing that 1/12 of the world should avoid using cologne today. You get some sort of the thin edge of the wedge, as I said. It can lead to other things. I have found it's very much like dope as well. That if you experiment with it, you get onto it and such, you can get into hard stuff And it doesn't happen with everybody, not by any means. But you can get into hard stuff, and that can be the end of the path for you eventually. And it happens with people who will begin with a thing as simple as a horoscope column in the newspaper and graduate from that to spending $700 for a 20-minute reading with Sylvia Browne over the telephone.
Is that what she charges?
Yeah, $700, and most of the reading. Now we've got many tapes that were sent to us by people who were rather unhappy with the results because they didn't get any help out of it whatsoever, and she was wrong every time she said something. But what you get on there is the first 10 or 12 minutes of this 20 minutes is the names of your guardian angels. That's very important data to have.
Sure.
Of course, you wouldn't want to miss that. And things like names that you enjoyed when you were a princess in Nineveh, in Babylonian days or whatever. All of this stuff about former lives. And then she gets down to nitty-gritty. But you ask me questions, dear. Pardon me, you ask me questions, dear.
No, I don't, because I don't have the thin edge of the wedge coming in at all. I don't really I didn't read any of the books at all. I don't even know what Sylvia's claiming. Where does she claim she gets this information?
Well, she's doing a reading, the way she likes to put it. It's sort of a drop-in phrase. Reading, it's like vibrations. They wouldn't know a vibration if you handed them a basket full of them. They really wouldn't know. But they use these terms all the time, and she does what she calls a reading. It really is, well, in the art as we know it, it's called cold reading, and it's making suggestions, dropping hints, mentioning initials and situations. Like a typical reading by a cold reader will be something like, there's newspaper connected with this because I do see a white print on black and it's rather large. I can't read it, but it is saying something there. There's some names with there's double letter in the name, like an R or perhaps two S's. I'm not sure. And, there's electricity here. Somewhere there's electricity and flowing water. And, I'm smelling something like oil or gasoline, maybe a solvent of some, and it goes on and on like this for 90 minutes of a tape that they will send you when they do this kind of reading by mail or whatever, and you have to read some significance into it. Now, later on, when the crime is solved or the situation is resolved in some way or other, the believers will look at it and say, look, there was a double B. She said double S, but a B looks very much like an S, an uppercase, and so she must have known. They try to fit the facts to the guesses. There's the art of cold reading, and by throwing these things out and allowing people to feed on them and encouraging them to fill in the gaps, that's the real art of the thing, because they'll say something like, is there an older man with a B in his name? You answer that, and later on when you reconstruct the thing, you say, she told me about Uncle Bart. Well, we call him Bert, but he called himself Bart occasionally, I remember. They fill in all these details by reconstructing it. And that's the art of cold reading, and that's what Sylvia does.
It also has a lot of the upspeak, right, where you make a statement that can be either a statement or a question.
Yeah,
right?
Of course, yeah.
Yeah, you're from a large family.
Yeah, exactly. and I'm getting this is a popular expression. They start out with, I'm getting something very slow moving, like it could be a train or a bus or even a toy car, and they're looking at you. If they're doing a live reading, of course, they're looking at you to see a reaction, and if you brighten up at any of these things, they stop right there and let you fill in the details.
And also people that go to these are not doing test conditions. They want it to work, so
yes.
They're very open.
And not only want it, man, they need it to work. Well, remember, if you're paying
$700,
yeah,
I need this to work.
You're into it for $700. You need it to work, and people will send me the tapes when I've requested them on my internet connection there. I've said, if you have a reading, you're not satisfied with it, send me at least a copy of the tape. And we've done transcriptions of them. They're so abysmally the same. The same kind of thing for everybody. She starts out on the same tack and goes along with it, and then she branches off according to the answers that she gets, of course.
But that's I've always thought that the more physical manifestations use the tools of magicians.
Yeah.
But I've always thought that the verbal manifestations use more the tools of poetry. Bob Dylan writes a song, I married Isis on the 5th day of May, but I could not hold on to her very long. It's nothing to do with your life whatsoever. Your wife is not named Isis, and you didn't marry her on those days.
Yeah.
But you immediately take that and condense it and pull out what it means to you and go. So it seems like if you were to take Bob Dylan, instead of claiming, as he always has, he's a songwriter or a poet or an entertainer, he claimed that he was actually seeing into your heart, you'd get kind of the same thing.